In this release, we're going to look at guest access. Guest access is a new feature available in the Power Platform. For Canvas app makers, they can now share their app with business partners, contractors, and other VIP customers outside of their company. You can now quickly share access using Azure B2B or B2C. You can quickly and easily share just like you do today with any other employees inside of your company. You can also embed the Canvas app inside of SharePoint for guest access users to use that. And guest access can also be used in not only the browser, but also the mobile player. So let's jump in and see what this looks like. So let's take a look at a guest tenant that I have access to. So I'm currently logged in as Amy T. So now what I can do is I can easily, just like I did before, click and share my app. So I'm going to go in here to my Canvas app, and I'm going to share this with my email address. So now I can see that I'm showing up as a guest. I can see that I can give access to CDS if I need to. I can see that my app also has a SharePoint list. And now I can click to share. So the other thing I need to do is I'm going to go over to the Azure portal. And from the Azure portal, what I did to prepare this is I added a new guest user. I typed in their name, and this invites them to a guest as to use my tenant. The other thing I can do is I have this SharePoint list that has a few different items in here. So I can see if I click on the item, Power Apps comes up because I'm inside of my current tenant. So now what I can do is I'm going to jump right over and I'm logged in as myself. So you notice here, I'm logged in as myself. And now I'm inside of this particular guest tenant. And not only can I see the list, I can now click on the items and I can edit them and I can see them right from Power Apps embedded inside of SharePoint. So that's one of the new features that's available to you right now. The other thing I can do is I can add new items to SharePoint list. So if I wanted to add, let's say, test 5, I can do that. And there it is. Now the other thing, because I've shared the Canvas app with my guest user, I can go ahead and go into my Canvas app and I'll reload it here. So I'm logged in as me. And as you can see, I'm showing that I'm logged in with my Microsoft email account. I can see the new items that I've just added from my SharePoint list. And I can also see my CDS data coming directly from the guest tenant. So now I can easily share my apps with really anyone that needs access, any of my business partners, any of my external partners, and they can now get in and we can collaborate together on my apps and my data. One note for admins, make sure that guest is enabled for your tenants. To do this, you go to the Azure portal, you make sure that guest access is enabled, and then all of your users can start to invite guests to run their Canvas apps and even model-driven apps. In this release, we have a number of new solution checker enhancements. Let's dive into some of these. Customers constantly ask us how we can validate what they've built. Solution checker is a great way to do this. We have a number of new features that are available in shipping. We have solution checker that can be run automatically via DevOps task or other automation tasks that you may have. We have different rules that you can pick from. You can start to even check managed solutions or on-prem solutions. We start to have support for ECMA 6. And now you can also check what's included in your solution, including Canvas apps and flows, and to see what rules need to be validated and changed there. So let's take a look from a demo perspective of how this works. So I have a number of solutions that are available to me. Today we're going to focus on this one. So I'm going to dive in and I can see within this solution, I have a number of items. I have some JavaScript, I have some other code plugins. So let's see how I can run solution checker here. So the first thing I can do is click and I can go right in and I can run solution checker. I've just done this, so now I can go ahead and view the results. I can review the results right here in line. I can see this by file, I can see it by issue type, and I can also see this by severity. So I can see right away I have 27 high items and over 300 medium items. So I can expand this and start to dive one by one into each item, and we will show you what you need to fix. So if I click on an item, I can see the issue, I can see how to fix it with a link. I can even go down to the location, the module, and the plugin type. So I know exactly what to do, how to fix it, and what to do next, which is great if I want to do this manually. I have other options now with this new release though. I'm going to change over to Microsoft DevOps. So within DevOps, we now have new tasks that you can enable. So I can go here and I can search for Power Apps. And now we have a number of new DevOps tasks that are available specifically for Power Apps. So what I've done is I've already included a few here. So I have the tool installer, and then I have solution checker. So within my solution checker task, I can quickly set up a connection. I can specify what I want to analyze, either a local file or a file from URI. I can specify what my location is. And now I can even choose, do I want to have the solution checker rule set, or am I an ISV and I want to go to app source, and now I can run the full app source certification against my particular solution. So because I can pull in files either from my online or my on-prem implementation, I can pull those in. I can even take my managed solutions and run them through here. The other nice feature we have under advanced is I can specify what happens when I get the results back. So I can say, what type of error level should I have and what's the threshold? So if I want to have this as part of my continuous build process, and if I have any high errors or any critical errors, I can fail that build while it's happening and stop that from rolling to production because a new issue or a new error has been found that as a dev, I need to go in and go ahead and resolve that and make those changes before I move back to production. So these are some of the new features that are available for you to start to use today for Power Apps Checker.
In this release, we've introduced components into both Canvas and model-driven to simplify how makers build apps, by allowing them to reuse parts of their apps within a single app, across apps, and across environments. Components can be built in two ways. Canvas components, which use the same tools makers already use to build Canvas apps, which leverage drag and drop of controls, expressions, and connectors to build components. In addition to Canvas components, we've also introduced the Power Apps component framework, which allows developers to build components using code. Canvas components are built using the same tools makers use today to build Canvas apps. Canvas components can be built as self-contained, responsive units, which can contain our base controls, expressions, and connections to data. Once built, a Canvas component can be used multiple times within an app or across multiple apps. This allows makers to maintain and update their components in one location and have their updates reflected across their apps. This is especially helpful when dealing with common app elements like headers and navigation concepts, which are often repeated and need to align across screens and apps for a consistent user experience. Let's take a look at a Canvas component in the studio. To start, we can swap over and see all the components within this app. I can also import components from other apps and my environment if I had them. In this example, we are looking at an app header component, which I can use at the top of every screen in my app. A similar example is the bottom tab navigation to show which screen I have active. Once I've created my component, I can now insert an instance anywhere in my app. I can find my Canvas components in the component picker, along with the others shipped by Microsoft. Once added, I can then see the properties which I defined while building the component. In this example, the title of the screen, which I'll set to task update, and where the home icon navigates to. This allows me to build a more generic component which can be reused, rather than hard-coding text and buttons. Properties are used to pass data in and out of components in a sort of contract between your app and the component. I can then add the same component to another screen, and again update the title, this time to task follow-up, and update my home screen icon. While not shown here, components can also be built to be responsive, and will respond to your app themes by default. If we now take a quick look at my app, you can see that the component is used across the two screens, without me needing to build it twice for both the update and the follow-up screens. While this made creating my app simpler, it also makes maintaining the header easier. Now I'm going to add a help icon to my header, which I want to display on each screen. To do this, I return to my component, which acts as the master for any changes I'd like to make. I can quickly add another icon and tweak the styling in the same way I would in a Canvas app, with fine-grained control over the look and feel of the header. A key benefit of Canvas components is while they provide a powerful ability for reuse and consistency, they don't require code or advanced developer knowledge, as they still rely on core concepts used within the canvas, which Power Apps makers are already familiar with. Now that I've added it, if I switch back to my app, you can see that the header has been updated on both screens. This allows makers to be more productive and reduce maintenance, but also allow consistency and reuse across apps within an organization. The Power Apps component framework enables developers to build components using code and leverage those components in both Canvas and model-driven apps. Developers can use familiar languages like JavaScript and popular tools like VS Code and Visual Studio to build their components. This is especially exciting for Canvas apps, as it will be the first time developers can bring their own controls and components into their apps. To support the Power Apps component framework, we've also introduced tooling and a new command line interface to make it super easy for developers to create new components based on templates, test, package, and deploy them to their environment. Let's take a look at consuming, building, and testing a code-based component. Let's start from our task update app we were building earlier. And now I'm going to add a PCF component that I've already built. You can add a code-based component in the same way we added the Canvas component earlier. The only difference here is this component has been created based on a React control using JavaScript, opening up a whole new world of custom and tailored UI to apps beyond what's been previously available. In this example, we're using a facepile component available from React to select the number of resources required. The same component can also be used in a model-driven app, allowing developers to build and reuse a single component across both app types. Now let's take a look at some of the tooling available to make creating these components easier. Using the Power Apps command line interface, you can create the base structure of your component using pre-built templates and then launch directly into VS Code. In this example, we're creating a new PCF component based on the field template. From here, I can then launch into VS Code or your preferred tool, which has jump-started building the component in JavaScript using a common library like React. Once in VS Code, you're able to leverage your JavaScript and TypeScript skills to build components as you normally would. Let's jump ahead to the finished component we added to our Canvas and model-driven app earlier. During the development process, I can use the command line interface to launch the Power Apps component framework test environment. This allows developers to render their component, test inputs and outputs, and ultimately accelerate their development cycle. Once tested and complete, developers can use the command line interface to package and deploy a component directly to their Power Apps environment. And they can start using this in their apps immediately to build awesome end-user experiences.
With this release of the unified interface, we're going to be doing several enhancements that are going to really help usability. Those are going to include improved error handling and navigation, which should help reduce the time needed to fix an issue when you're on a form. We're going to do better error handling with unsaved changes. We're also introducing changes to how you can see and read images with emails. Also with Quick Create, we've created the ability to quickly add a new record straight from the Quick Create form, so you no longer have to close the form and reopen it. We've also improved data density on our grids and our subgrids, and I'll be walking you through those changes today. So as I was saying, with this release, we're making some great improvements to the header, which include some productivity changes and some usability changes. What you're going to notice in the new header is we've actually made some really good improvements in how we handle long data names. What you'll see here is with this name, the New Data Corporation of Philadelphia, we no longer truncate the name. That information is always there. It's going to be there no matter what screen size you go to, whether you're in a widescreen format all the way down to a small screen format. We've also moved your form switcher. The form switcher used to be above the name up here. We've now moved it to down below. So now you can easily know where it is. It's right there readily available for you. And it's not as important as the record name, so that will help your users understand what they're working with more easily. The other thing that we've done is we've actually guaranteed at least 4 read-only values in the header today. So with this new format, this information will always be available as well. So whether you go from a widescreen to a small screen, those will be there and they'll never go away. So your customers will know what information they're working with. The other thing that we've done is we've actually made the ability for you to get to your information within that header. So if you have editable fields, if you use a high density header with flyout, your users will be able to get to information, and all that is readily available for them to create edits. What I'm going to show you is I'm going to actually show the reactive nature of our header and how, as you move from a widescreen to a small viewport, how we flow. And we, like I was saying, we don't truncate and we don't remove data. We always will overflow. So what you'll notice is right away is your form name doesn't go away, or I should say your record name doesn't go away in the header. The other thing is you still have those 4 read-only fields. They haven't moved. They're always readily available, and you can easily get to the chevron. So again, you can easily see that information. It's always there for you. The other thing that's really important is as you go between tabs, you'll notice that your information stays as well. So no matter what you're doing on the form, that information is up there in the header. So I'm going to go back to widescreen so you can see that it changes right back to what you were before. So you'll notice that as we moved it across and we made it widescreen, the right hand side reflowed, and you have that information, those 4 fields again up in that header. So with this release, we've also made it a lot easier for your users to fix errors when they occur. When you have a data entry error, such as an account name missing, or you have a wrong information in, let's say, a data type, you'll notice that in this case, as I've done, I have 2 errors up at the top. Within this notification, now what you can do is you can easily select one or the other. You can navigate directly to that. When you fix it, what you'll notice is that the error notification at the top changes. It goes away. But then I can click on the error where it occurred. It will navigate me directly to that basically that record and that field in that record. I can fix that. It will go away, and then I can save. Also, with this release, we've actually improved how you can navigate away and know when you have an unsaved change. What happens is if, let's say I change this account number, what you'll notice is that as I jump out, I have this unsaved changes down here. But what's really important is if your user tries to navigate away, so they're going to try to go to contacts, what we've done is we've improved this unsaved changes dialog. Now what you have is 2 options, which is save and continue or discard changes. Save and continue will actually save the change that you made, and it will take you over to where you were trying to go to, like the accounts page. But if you discard changes, that will actually discard the change you made, and it will navigate you away. So in both cases now, we'll take the action to move you to where you wanted to go. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and save and continue. And what you'll see is it immediately takes me to where I wanted to go. It doesn't stop. I can easily go back to that account by hitting the back button, and I'm back to where I was. So those are some great improvements that we made on the unsaved changes dialog. With this release, we've made it much easier for users to interact with emails. What we've done is when you open an email and it's in read-only mode, we actually now have the images inline. They're no longer an attachment. This makes it much easier for your users to read and understand emails that were sent to them by their authors. With this release, we've also made it easier for your users to add records using a quick create form. What we've done is once I enter information, I can now quickly go down and I can click on this chevron down below, and what I can do is I can actually save and create new directly from that quick create form. It will save that record, it will put me back onto the quick create form that I was on, and I can create another account. I can save this account and I can close it, and then I can be off and running on whatever else I need to do. So included with this release, we're also improving the data density and the usability of our grids. What you'll notice right away is that our grids are much more dense in the data that's shown. We've tightened up a lot of this information so you can see how you can see a lot more information in a single page. We've also made it a lot easier for you to use your sorting. So what you'll notice in the sort, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click to sort this. And what you'll notice right away is it's very quick and responsive. And what I can do, what's even better is as I click this sort, if I move between these below, so if I go to K as an example, it's going to remember your sort option. So what you'll notice is that didn't change. Even though there's no records here, you'll notice right away that when I go between the paginations, it saves your state. So it no longer resets that, which is great for when you're trying to get to information quickly. The other thing you'll notice as it switches, we've also included a grid indicator. You'll see it really quickly right in the middle. You saw that little thing that spun? That actually tells you how long it's taking for your grid to load. The last thing we did is on the filtering itself. If you navigate away when you're using a grid now, so if I go over to dashboards and then I come back to grids, what you'll notice right away is we actually kept your filter and your sort. So we no longer use that when you're going back and forth. So with all those changes, we really hope that it's made this a great improvement in using our grids. With this release, we've also introduced some really good changes to our timeline wall. If you haven't used the timeline wall before, it's basically a solution that we embed into the application where you can view activities really quickly and interact with them. With this release, we've done some improvements around the data density, how commands show up, better iconography, so you can quickly identify activities. We've introduced shading as well. So what you're going to notice when I demo this is that as you hover and you move down the timeline wall, you'll actually see where you are really quickly and easily with shading. We've also improved filtering, and I'll walk you through what that looks like. So what we've also done with emails is now you can see them in a conversation mode. So what that allows you to do is actually group them in a way that you can quickly get to an email. And you also no longer need this setting to be in an admin. Admins had to set this, but with this release, we're actually making it a user setting. So you can go into personal settings and you can quickly and easily set those. So with this release with the timeline wall, we've done some really great things to help you better manage your activities. What you're going to first notice is that we've actually split out our iconography. So what you're going to be able to do is on this left-hand side, you'll notice that the icons are much smaller. This allows you to quickly and easily see more information within the page. As you see me scrolling down, you'll notice that you can see a lot more activities with this release. You're going to be able to get to information more quickly because of that data density that we've done. We've improved it greatly. The other thing that we've done is you'll notice on this right-hand side, you actually can really quickly and easily identify what type of activity it is with that iconography. We've actually split it out so that you can tell that this is a phone call, that's a note, oh, this is a post. So it's going to be a lot easier for your users and people that are using the activity timeline wall to know the types of activities that they're using. The other thing that we've done is you'll notice as I'm scrolling through, you actually get a shading so you know what you're looking at inside the timeline wall. This is going to make it much easier for users to know exactly where they are and what activities they're working with. What's really important is when you interact with an activity now by clicking on it, the shading stays. And then what you'll notice is I can actually click on multiple activities and the shading is locked. That tells your user exactly which activities they're working with. As I click off, that shading goes away. The other thing we've done that you'll notice right away is we've moved the command bar directly up into the top of your activity as you go by on hover. This makes it much easier and faster for your users to be able to get to those activities that they work with on a daily basis. The last thing we did with usability is you can actually click anywhere on the activity bar now and expand it. So it's a quick and easy expand and collapse with the activity timeline wall. So that's how all the interaction is going to work, and we've made improvements with how you can get to your activities and use them. The other thing we did is we've actually created emails as conversation threads. What you'll notice here in these emails, these 3 emails right here, they're actually grouped. And the way that I've done that is I've gone into my personal settings and I've actually set them to be in a conversation mode in the activity timeline wall. What that does is you can see is it groups them together. So now they're not scattered throughout the timeline wall. They're actually grouped and you can go from one to the other to the other. The sort order for these is the most recent to the latest. So that should really help your users and people using the timeline wall get to their activities and manage them much more quickly with this release.